Hello, everyone. My name is Jancy, and I am a licensed esthetician. Um, Today, we will not be discussing skincare or anything self-care or spa related. In honor of it being Black History Month, February, I wanted to do this mini series on Black prominent people who played a role in society and Black culture. Um, I just wanted to talk about important people who made a difference in the history of Black lives. So, um, of course, as this is a beauty page, I felt it was only right to start this series out with the one and only Madam C.J. Walker. And why I'm starting this series off with her is because she was the first woman millionaire. And do you guys want to know how she did it? She's up off beauty, okay? I'm taking you guys back to second grade. Yeah, when they used to ask us to do the Black History Month projects, and you used to have to pick, or sometimes they would pick for you, who they wanted you to discuss. For today's project, we are discussing Madam C.J. Walker. So let's start off by discussing what Madam C.J. Walker did. Why is she such a prominent figure when it comes to Black history? So if you didn't know, now you know that Madam C.J. Walker was the first woman millionaire. She made millions off of selling beauty products. So let's just get into this because, let's talk about it. Let's discuss Madam C.J. Walker's early childhood life. Madam C.J. Walker was born in Delta, Louisiana on December 23rd, around 1867. So I just want to put that time period into perspective, like the time that she was just growing up. So $1 million back then would be equivalent to $27 million in today's money. Also, her siblings were born pre-Emancipation Proclamation, meaning that her siblings were slaves, her parents were slaves. The cotton field that her parents worked for is where she was later born, and she ended up eventually working for too. So around the time where she was born was heading towards the end of Reconstruction period. So at this point, slavery has already taken place. The Emancipation Proclamation has been signed and slaves have been freed. But there were still a lot of Confederate laws that were put in place to still make the lives of Black people difficult. So with that being said, she also was, just think about this and put it into perspective. She was a little Black girl from the South, and she made it to become a multi-millionaire. Like from beginnings like that, which we're about to discuss, to where she ended up is just mind-boggling. Like, just imagine growing up in a time period like that. You know, all the odds that are against you, and to still persevere like that, that's amazing. So they be doing the snaps now. Snaps for Madam C.J. Walker. and all that she has done for the Black community. So let's discuss her early life as a child. Madam C.J. Walker was born with the original name Sarah Breed Love. Born to two parents who were slaves. She also had, I think, 4 older brothers and an older sister. Could have been 3 older brothers and an older sister, but she had at least 4 older siblings, and one was a girl and the other were boys. And they were slaves, being born pre-Emancipation Proclamation. So they did get to experience that side of life. Sarah faced a lot of hardship very early on in her life. And at the age of 7, both her parents passed away, leaving Sarah to move in with her older sister, where they both worked at the cotton field that Sarah was born at. So during this time period, as she is working at the cotton field and living with her sister and I believe her sister's husband, in result of Sarah having to move in with her sister and her sister's husband, she decided to marry early on so that she can leave her sister's house and, start her own life in her own home. She married a man, and just after a few short years, she became a widow. Her husband left behind her and 1 daughter to fend for themselves in this world and to figure out what to do next. The next best option for her was to move to St. Louis, where her brothers already moved to, because at the time, like I said, the laws that were in place were very strict for Black people. So a lot of them were fleeing the South and, moving, trying to migrate and find better living situations, better employment, all of that. So her brothers had already pre-migrated to St. Louis. So she went there. Her brothers were barbers. So where her brothers were barbering at, she became a laundress. So they call it a laundress. She was doing the laundry. That's a cute name. I didn't know they had a name for the ladies that do laundry. So she was a laundress and I believe a dishwasher or something. She was just like a upkeep person in the barbershop, I believe. While Sarah was working as a laundress at wherever her brothers were working, she began attending the St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church, where she felt comfortable to join a community of Black women who inspired her to join the choir. They also began to do missionary work. She joined the National Association of Colored Women. And in this part of her life, I feel like this is where she was exposed to just being around new environments, new things. So I feel like we all can relate to this in an aspect of we're all used to, what we grow up around, the daily things that we see, the environment that we're constantly around. So when you grow up in that every single day, you have a limiting view on life because you're only seeing it from the perspective that you know. But I feel like there's a point in life where you just start to see life on a widespread view of there's life outside of America. This world isn't what we think. There's just so many layers to life. Something that forces you out of your everyday situation. I feel like with those life changes that take place comes an expansion on your views of life. So I feel like for Madam C.J. Walker, Sarah at the time, because she's not Madam yet. So for Sarah, at that time, she was used to her little dishwashing, her laundress at her brother's shop, where her brothers work. All she knows is struggle. She's seen her parents was slaves. She only has this small view on life. Yeah, so once she met these women, they made her feel comfortable enough to step out of her comfort zone, where they began missionary work. So I'm sure they were traveling, and she was just getting a bigger perspective on life. So I feel like when you get that bigger perspective on life is where it becomes easier to see yourself in a different position. When you're so used to just seeing yourself and your everydays, you just feel like, is there really much more than this? Like, does it get better than this? Like, you don't really know what's out there, so all you know is what you know. And yeah, I feel like I can relate to that, just in a sense of, it's hard to see yourself. It's hard to view yourself as like, can I really make it? Can I really become rich? Can I really, it's hard to see that for yourself when you're just around all you know. But it's like, once you start to travel, expand your knowledge, it's like, okay, if people over there can do it, or if did, it's just like your mindset changes on yourself, on life, and in every aspect. And I feel like that is what Madam C.J. Walker went through when she was with those women, and they started showing her something different from what she's used to every single day. Sarah is working, and she starts to take notice that she is balding in certain areas. But let's also put into perspective that during that time period, it was uncommon for women to keep up with the maintenance, the weekly maintenance they need for their hair, as far as just washing, shampooing, all of the nutrients that your hair needs. It was hard to do that during that time period because a lot of people were suffering from lack of indoor plumbing. So there wasn't much water. So a lot of women at the time couldn't really replenish their hair and clean it the way that it needed to be clean in order for it to flourish and grow the way that it's supposed to. During this time period where Sarah began to notice her losing hair loss and the scalp alignment, that she decided to start experimenting with different products, trying out different products to see if anything could help her with the hair loss. This is also where she decided to start mixing different ingredients and learning different ingredients, mixing different ointments, petroleums, and different type of ingredients to try to come up with her own hair care regimen that could possibly help her. But this time period is where she began to just experiment and become curious. Sarah did end up finding a regimen or a mixture that worked well for her, and but it still was missing some things. This season of her life is where she was introduced to sales. So she started her sales career, working for and selling beauty products for Annie Malone's beauty company called Poro Beauty Products. So that was another prominent Black woman. We might discuss her, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so she started selling products for this lady, and this is where she gained sales knowledge. I'm sure this is where she learned a lot about marketing. This is where she just developed that inner entrepreneur inside of her. So it's like sometimes God prepares you for, he doesn't give you what you want immediately because he has to prepare you. So he took her through that lady's beauty company to sell her products in order for her to develop herself as a salesman, as an entrepreneur, to have the confidence to sell herself, to sell her own products once the time came. During this time, while being a sales rep, she also worked as a cook for a pharmacist. And it was when she was working for this pharmacist that she found the missing ingredient, or she got the masterpiece to her hair care product. And from there, it was kind of history. She continued to use the product on herself. As she was using the product on herself, she always had in mind of creating her own beauty empire. That was always in the back of her mind. Also, during this time period, she remarried from her first husband that passed. And they also did end up divorcing. I think he was abusive, but she did end up fleeing to Denver, Colorado. And it was in Denver, Colorado where she worked for this pharmacist and developed her perfect hair care product. It was proven to help with dandruff. So after she moved to Denver, she married her husband, Charles Walker. And it was around this time that she decided to pursue her personal hair care product brand. It was around this time period, or as her business began to pick up and it started to boom, this is where she changed her name from Sarah to Madam. And Madam was like her work alter ego. So that was like the name that she kind of gave herself to, like, it's a lot to step out and be an entrepreneur. So, a lot of people try to have a separate person or whatever. So that's where the name Madam came from. CJ Walker, and her husband's name was Charles Walker or whatever. So this is where she officially took on the name Madam CJ Walker. So the product that she developed was the Madam CJ Walker's Wonderful Hair Grower. And it was a scalp conditioner that also had healing ingredients that help to rehydrate and heal the scalp. So Madam CJ Walker started her business by going door to door selling her Madam CJ Walker's Wonderful Hair Grower. She was going door to door. She also was in the church promoting to them ladies. So she was telling the ladies in the church, like, hey, look, I got this grower for your scalp. It gets rid of dandruff. It's gonna get you right, get you tight. So she was in there just marketing herself, promoting herself, until she was able to get the brand to a level where she was able to scale it. And she, once able to do that, she began to train several Black women at the time in sales in order for them to become sales representative agents in her beauty brand. So basically, it went from her going door to door selling this beauty product to her now providing work, not even just providing work, but providing a skill to be able to sell to these Black women. And they're out here making her money. They're making themselves money. And it's a win-win. After creating her entire hair care line of products around 1905, she also around that time recreated the hot comb we all know, love, and use to this very day. She didn't invent the hot comb, but she recreated the style, widening the comb, making it Black girl friendly. So let's thank Madam for the invention, or the recreation, of the hot comb. As Madam CJ Walker's fortune continued to increase, she continued to get wealthier. She became a philanthropist. She became a civil rights activist. She was active in the schools. She was active in arts, You know, she was just big in the black space. After divorcing her third husband, Charles Walker, Madam C.J. Walker moved to Indianapolis, which was manufacturer friendly, and she decided to set up shop for her brand. So this is where the headquarters of her brands was located. She also went forward with starting a factory. While she was operating this factory and doing all of this in Indianapolis, she was also still expanding her salons and her trainings of black women in other cities. Her fortunes, of course, continued to pile up at this point, and she built a luxury Italian styled home designed by an African American architect in Harlem, New York, that she called Villa Liwaro, where she continued her work as a philanthropist, playing a prominent role in the era of the Harlem Renaissance. In the later years of her life, and dedicated her life to anti-lynching activism until she later passed away. So I just feel like the story of Madam C.J. Walker, just in this modern day society of everyone out here just trying to become an entrepreneur, everyone's trying to figure it out for themselves, to just look back on and think about her life and think about all the trials and tribulations she had to overcome in order to put herself in the position that she was able to put herself in. And not only was she able to put herself in that position, she was also able to create positions for thousands of black women around the country. So with that being said, that is the story of Madam C.J. Walker. Her story definitely is one for the books. We can all look to someone like Madam C.J. Walker for inspo. On those days where it's hard to be an entrepreneur, it's mentally taxing on you or whatever, look back to women like Madam C.J. Walker, who really had all the odds against her and still prevailed. So I hope you guys like this video. This was something new, different. I wanted to talk about history. I hope you guys liked it.